Hail, Jim Alexander.
The J, the I, the M, the M, the Y, the J, the I, the M is Jimmy. It's Jimmy.
Glad to finally connect, Bobby, and to talk to you.
Yeah, man, I heard you were having some technical difficulties on your end.
It's all good now. Things are different. These times it's kind of a unprecedented time, I think, for all of us. What are you doing? I mean, how are you kind of navigating through the lockdowns, the quarantine? How have you kind of dealt with it?
Yeah, man, reading.
Reading?
Reading a lot. Yeah, man, reading a lot, getting into a lot of philosophical books. I've been writing a lot of poetry. I'm actually been reading a lot of poetry as well. I've been just, thinking. I think the most beautiful thing that came out of it was that it humanized the world. I felt like, it's unfortunate and it's so, I can't even fathom the amount of pain that's happening as well. But it's like this kind of put everyone on a pause and on a halt, because everyone was on this, cycle of go, do something now, quick, before your time runs out.
Yep.
And no one was actually taking time to actually breathe and listen to their belly and, listen to themselves. And, you can actually, do a lot of things at home, and you can actually take a lot of time to do with your family, or you can work at home. There's a lot of things we can do, and we weren't looking at the beautiful thing about life, and taking time for ourselves. And so I felt like this really humanized a lot of us. At first, of course, like everyone else, I think it hit me a way where I was like, it's unprecedented. I just was like, it was like, wow, this is really some kind of other, like, just worldly thing that's happening. I couldn't even, at first I wasn't even hitting reality. I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And then it settled in, and I think, with the time, time heals everything, as people say, and I think we're, with time, doing what we have to do and following the regulations and following what the experts and the health experts are saying and everything, that we'll get through this, and so for myself, trying to stay away from the news a lot. I listen to a lot of important things, but I try not to chime into too much of media, because that can cloud the psyche a lot. And so I've taken myself in a corner, and I'll sit in front of a tree, and I'll just read, man. Just read a lot. How about yourself? What are you doing?
I'm glad how you I really like the perspective, how you changed it to you took a positive out of a situation that's a negative, and really it kind of hunkered down. Me too. It's like the industry in itself can get really taxing, and you're kind of, just always, like you said, on the run and mentally drained, and just almost, it depresses you in a lot of ways too. I think that just kind of, we're all on the same level and going through the same thing, and it humanizes you. That's the thing that you said that really struck with me too, and I feel like I'm just taking the time to relax and try to not to stress about all this work stuff that always keeps you on the go, and really connect with friends and family. I'm having phone conversations now with people that usually you just wouldn't, just you could text with, so I find myself connecting with family, and and just kind of enjoying even the cleaner air, too. You come outside just to take a breath of a fresher air. I think it's taken us almost to a time in the past, in a sense, how life could have been more simpler, and really enjoy the small things, man, because I think now everything's in perspective, that we've taken a lot of things for granted, and I think it's almost nature's way of saying appreciate what you have, because it could be taken away like that from you. So I really kind of have used this to taking a step back and really appreciate what we had.
Yeah, definitely, man. I've seen those photos of the satellite photos of pollution in the air in different parts of the world, and how it's clearing up. And I read this thing where it's like there's a laundry list of things that what we've it was titled "What We've Learned in the Last Few Days," and one of the things was the world can regenerate itself without human interaction. We don't have to get involved. You know what I mean? To try to fix it, it'll heal itself, and that's a beautiful thing that I actually resonate with. Is this earth is actually alive, man. It's a living organism. You know what I mean? It's breathing. It is moving. You know what I mean? It always takes me back to that visual of the film Avatar, when they all connect. Their bodies connect into the tree, and they all connect into the life force of the earth. So it's like, oh man, that's what I've been feeling. Like I feel like this is a time for us to realize that, nature will do nature's work, and we have to allow it to play, and we can't get involved and try to control it, because when we're controlling is when we actually exhaust anything. Try to control anything, our mind, or try to control your outcome of life, or whatever it may be. It's like, you know what I mean? If we're trying to control something, it's gonna hit back, and this is what nature's doing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? To
mankind,
because we haven't allowed it to breathe.
No question. I completely agree. We treat it as a machine, and it turned into a realization that it's a living thing. So well said.
Yeah.
Wanted to jump in about the movie, ask you, I mean, this was interesting. I felt like this movie has a real slow burn and things set up, and you need to pay attention to it, because things towards, the more it evolves towards, things started to get explained, and especially your character, man. I mean, you spent a lot of time in a jail cell, in a court running. I mean, how was this part for you? Because I felt like, for the first half of the movie, you're barely introduced, and then when you play such a vital part in this film and how it winds up. Tell me about the role and what attracted you to it. I really felt like your part was unique. You had a lot of intensity and emotion. I was almost wondering, like, man, that jail scene a few of the times, you brought so much energy to these moments and parts. I'm like, I wonder how many takes it took him, because he would have been exhausted. Tell me a little bit about your scenes and just the character and role.
Yeah, man. So I haven't seen the movie. So I don't know what you've seen, man. I haven't seen anything. So I'm actually like, I wonder what you're telling me things I've seen for the first time, because I haven't seen it. Like our whole cast and crew. I mean, we were supposed to, we were all supposed to have the world premiere at South by Southwest, and it of course what happened with everything and the pandemic and stuff. So that didn't happen, and so I hadn't seen it, and so I myself be watching it when it airs on April 17th. And so I don't know, but
I'll tell you that you played your character is first of all, the first half of the movie, it's like I'm waiting for you to show up, and then once you do, I mean, your character really ties in the entire movie, I felt, in a lot of places, and some of the strongest scenes were with you in them. It was amazing how, like, the involvement of your character dictated the story, that you weren't even involved first half of, kind of the way the movie spaces out. So I thought it was incredible. Do you remember some of the scenes where you and Shay and you and Michael Shannon too in the cell? I thought those were some really powerful moments and explosive moments too, where you kind of go and rage, you're throwing stuff around. What do you remember from filming that?
You know what I like. What I like what you said that struck something in me right now is, like you said, the character is shown in the first half, but then it becomes a vital later on. To tackle that real quick, I mean, it's kind of like what's happening in American society, or like a lot of, because I live here, I can say from my own experience, it's like, there are these people that work in the shadows that we don't ever see or hear about, or our government doesn't fight for, or gives up to, or there's a lot of disrespectful things. I mean, we can trickle down the laundry list from like our president to a lot of the social injustices that are happening to this day. I mean, we're trying to give. Like they've just started like a fund to help the workers in the fields, and it's like we don't, like, every day we eat these fruits, these veggies, and these things that come into our refrigerator, in our kitchens, in our markets around the country, and honestly, no one is asking, like, where does that come from?
True.
Who is doing that work? And so, but then all of a sudden, if those people came out of the picture, you wouldn't have all this, and like, it'd be a catastrophe here. So it's like, it's beautiful that you're saying that, because, for me personally, I took upon myself to actually invest my whole heart into this part, because I myself am a Mexican Puerto Rican American citizen, and so I know that I've experienced, and I've had family and friends, and of course I know someone that knows someone, or I know someone, or myself, and I'm speaking for millions of people around this country that have experienced some kind of social prejudice, or like social injustice or discrimination for the color of their skin, or for the way that they speak, or for their beliefs or their culture. And being able to play this part, it was beautiful, and especially in the hands of like just gentle human beings. Scott Teams, the director, or being around Michael Shannon, or being with Shea Wiggum, or being with Bruno Pichit, or being with Catalina. It's like all of these people respected, understood, and of course, because they are complete, whole-rounded artists and human beings, that they actually get it. You know, they get that they can see all of this, and they're not, like, they're just open to, like, let's tell this story, let's tell it with a lot of heart, and tell it at our best of our abilities. And so for me to come into play, it's like, you know, I just had to just think for myself. I had to look into my own history. I had to look into my own past. I had to look into things around me. I had to actually diary things about, like, what happened to me growing up, or what my experiences were, and how can I think of those things, and, like, you know, because it happens every day, man. I mean, it happens every day, and so being the color that I am, you know, being a brown American, is like, I get looked at a certain way driving down the street in my little Honda Civic, man, like by a police officer, and you know what I mean? And so, like, it makes me question to this day, man. It makes me question, like, is it my mustache? Is it the chisel, like, chin I have? Is it the round, you know, like the almond brown eyes that I have? Is it the curly dark black hair that I have? Like, why is this guy looking at me this way? Why is this officer looking at me like this way? Does he not think that a person like me can have, you know, this watch on, or drive this, you know, this car, or, like, what is it that causes that? You know what I mean? It's a way that people have been taught, and it's a way that people have learned, and you know, it trickles down from history and from people, from their parents, and it's no one's fault. But I mean, we have to stand our ground, and we have to say, hey, listen, the best way to fight these kind of injustices is if we actually educate ourselves on the subject, and ask ourselves, and, like, right now, there's a lot of time to ask ourselves inner questions, you know what I mean? And, and so, like, playing these, to stick it back around, and to play this character that you saw in the film, I mean, man, there's a wealth of, like, just, like, light that I myself, knowing, and I had to know it first before I can play it, was like, I have to know what I represent, what my face represents, who I am, what that is, and why it is important to portray this thing, and to put myself out there, and you know what I mean, like, in front of that camera, and with these characters and these actors and these production and everything like that. Like, really, you know, you have to bare your soul, man, because as an artist, our whole thing is, like, I need to open up, so that way people can open up on the other end. You know what I mean? Like, I need to open myself, so that way you can open yourself. It'll allow you to open yourself. It'll give you inspiration or what have you. You know, it'll give you that life. And so for me, it was like, I took every single moment, every single day being on that set and working with those beautiful, talented human beings. It's like I had to put all my eggs in one basket. There was no other way around it. Like, everything was focused in on that part and those characters and those moments, because, I mean, why not? And I had nothing else. I have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like, I have everything to gain from these experiences. And so, working with Shannon, or working with Shay, or working with Catalina, you know, all of these great human beings, working with Scott Teams, the director, like, I mean, man, there was so much freedom. There was so much play. There was so much, like, it was like, you see the scenes being so intense, and it's so like catastrophe, but really, it's like all love, man. It's like, it's all love, like, right behind that, and apart from all of that is, like, when they call cut, or when they cleaning up to do the next shot or something, it's love, man. Like, how you doing? You know, like, you know, Shannon will come up to me and tap me on the shoulder, or, like, I'll go up to him and we'll start doing, like, some kinesiology, and, like, well, you know what I mean? Like, I'll start rubbing, like, my temple, or doing this or that, and he's over here, like, making jokes, and, you know, we're having a great time, because we know that if we love each other, and if we give each other that love, and that it gives you that safety to play and to go as far as you can, do as much as you can, because, you know, it's all for the art. At the same time, it's like, if I know I love you, and you know I love you, and we have that communication with each other, you know that in any second of any scene, of any shot that I do something, you know it's coming from a loving place. Not a place of, like, anything other, you know what I mean? So you feel safe, and you feel like you can go as far as you can, and having a director that can see you going too far, and can reel you back in, you know what I mean?
It's Jimmy. It's Jimmy.